Hi friends, I hope your day is off to an awesome start. I have a book for us today called Halloween, Howl, and it is a book about baby Clifford. The author of this book is Norman Bridwell, and the author is the person who writes the words for a book, and the illustrator is Barry Goldberg. And hopefully some families are watching this as well, because while we're reading this book, I'm going to ask some different kinds of comprehension questions that you can be asking when you're reading stories at home. This can help with your students' reading comprehension, their fluency, their vocabulary. So it's definitely a good idea while you're reading to kind of throw some of these in. So we're going to model that for you today. Halloween Howl. The illustrator, like I said, is Barry Goldberg, and the illustrator is the person who draws the pictures for a book. When Clifford the big red dog was a small red puppy, he lived with Emily Elizabeth in the city. On his very first Halloween, Clifford was playing outside with his friends. "Hey, Clifford," Norval the bird asked. Have you met your new next-door neighbors?" Clifford shook his head. "Maybe they'll come over for trick or treat." So a question that you could ask during a story like this is, what do you know about your next-door neighbors? What are their names? And that can kind of help the students to start thinking about their prior knowledge and start thinking about how they can relate to the characters. So friends, what do you know about your next door neighbors? "Trick-or-treating, scary monsters," Norval shivered. "You never know what can happen on Halloween." Ooh! A strange howling suddenly filled the air. What could it be? "A monster!" shouted Norval. Another kind of question that you can ask is, how are the animals feeling? So friends, how are the animals feeling? And how can you tell how they're feeling? They just heard a scary noise. I'm looking at the looks on their faces. Ooh! Clifford looked up. It was coming from his apartment building. "Monsters eat stuff like us for dinner," said Norval. What do you think is going to happen next? "Let's get out of here," said the kittens, Flo and Zoe. "I'll meet you in Emily Elizabeth's room," said Norval. Clifford and his friends skittered through the hallway. Suddenly, Daffodil the rabbit stopped short. When you come across a word like skittered that you think that your student might not be familiar with, that is a good opportunity to expand their vocabulary. So you can look at the pictures and say, what do you think it means to skitter across the hallway? And see what your student says, and you can kind of give them context clues by directing them to look at the pictures. Something strange was outside the new neighbor's door. It was white and pointy. "It looks like a giant tooth," said Clifford. "A monster's tooth," they yelled. The monster lived next door. And this is a good opportunity to ask your student, what do you think is outside of the neighbor's door? What do you think this could be? Do you think a monster really lives in the neighbor's house? Let's find out. Ooh! The howling was louder now. The animals scrambled into Clifford's apartment. They told Norval about the tooth. "It was as big as me," said Clifford. Just then, Emily Elizabeth came in. "I'm going to visit our new neighbor, Shen," she told Clifford. Emily Elizabeth was going to the monster's house on Halloween, the scariest night of the year? Oh my goodness. What do you think will happen in the neighbor's house when Emily Elizabeth goes over to visit? And this is a good way of practicing predicting with your student to ask, what do you think will happen next? What do you think will happen at key points in the story? And have them use the clues that they remember from the rest of the story to predict. Clifford had to protect her. He quickly climbed into her backpack. A few minutes later, he peeked out. Emily Elizabeth was talking to a boy. "Clifford," she said. Clifford climbed out of the backpack and then yelped. The monster tooth was right there. "It's okay, Clifford," said Shun. "That's just a shark tooth. I collect things from the ocean." So what do you think? What was it that they found outside of the apartment? It was just a shark tooth. They were all scared for no reason. "I like to play music too," Shun said. He showed them his Japanese flute. So what do you think it was, the noise that they heard that they thought was a ghost or a monster? What was the sound? "Ooh!" Clifford barked and barked. "I know," said Shun, laughing. "I'm not very good at playing music yet." So was it a monster that they were hearing coming out of the apartment? No, you're right. It was the flute that their neighbor was playing. Later, Clifford told his friends there was no monster tooth, no monster Howl, and no monster at all. "We should have met our neighbors before deciding there was a monster next door," said Clifford, "even if it is Halloween." The end. So I hope this has been helpful for families. I hope students, you enjoyed our story, Halloween Howl, and I also hope that families can have gotten a better idea of the kinds of questions that they can ask for comprehension while they're reading stories at home. All right, friends, have a great day.